Welcome to the Instinctive Influencers podcast, a show where influence becomes one of your tools for success. Now, here are your hosts, Brian Weber and Ed Haley.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And I am Ed.
And welcome to the Instinctive Influencers podcast. You like my new tool? I didn't want to show you before. This is the
It's too
this
early.
Is the new announcement. For those of you not listening, I am talking through a toilet paper roll.
No, hey, so I saw this downstairs and I was like, I could throw this away or I could use this tool because it's amazing.
It's a tool. It is a tool.
It's a tool, and we're going to talk about many tools today, but this tool is mine.
Yeah, you're repurposing. It's fine.
All right. Hey, Ed, we are on episode 92. We're so close to 100. We can smell it, right? So I got to come up. I got to do some brainstorming. I'm going to have to run some things by you. We're going to see what we're going to do at 100. But lots of things to cover today. Tons of information. Like, you got some stuff going on. I kind of do. Big news. People may have seen pictures on Facebook, but I got to go and have dinner with the bearded ninja himself. It was amazing. Catching up on times, dude. That dude, you just said, because I mentioned it to you. You said something. I said, that dude the bearded ninja does not age. There's something going on here, Ed. Tell me what it is. Why doesn't he age?
It's got to be a mixture of snake venom and tiger blood or something. I don't know. It's got to be something in the beard oil, maybe. Maybe it's a moisturizer. Maybe he's rubbing the beard oil all over himself. I don't
he's gonna, because he does listen to the show all the time, so he's probably gonna be laughing. And you know how he laughs too, and he has that hard chuckle. He's like, so he's probably driving down the road right now listening to us, and then he's probably now he's cussing me out. So, but no, it was really good. We got to catch up. We talked about a lot of different things about the academy. We talked about like me going to school. We talked about their academy. Just progression. His daughter, she's in Columbia, the Columbia University. Like, she's so smart. Like, it's incredible. Yeah. And then the son, he lives just down the road from her, so they get to spend time together. And I really believe, Ed, that he's starting to debate, hey, why am I still in Tennessee when both my children are up in New York and I love New York? That type of thing. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
That would be insanity. The cost of living is just too much in New York. It would eat his little retirement checks up.
I don't know, man. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
He didn't want to live there when the son was there. I'm not saying that we as men tend to favor our daughters, but he didn't want to live up there when his son was there. But now that the daughter's there, now he's contemplating,
maybe they should have a sit down.
Are the Yankees even worth going up there for? I mean,
no.
I don't know.
No. I don't like the Yankees.
Of course you would say that.
I'm a Red Sox fan, so no. So, hey, dude, you've been busy, like crazy busy, like all the time, man. Like, you got things going on left and right. It seems like you have more than one thing going on all the time. It seems like
it does.
You doing all right?
That. Yeah, I'm doing all right. We're such a small group up there where I work at now. We're so small, so we have to cover so much. I mean, the good thing is I should only have one more work trip before I get to come to the States. I got my sister's wedding coming up. I got Thanksgiving at home.
Yeah.
My kids are coming in for the wedding, so that'll be interesting. And I'm being isolated. Yeah, I'm being isolated. We're going to a lake house. No internet, no phone signal. So we'll see how that works for my millennial children.
Where's that going to be at?
Just outside of Charlotte. Yeah, it's not far from Charlotte. My sister got a lake house for the week, and we'll see.
I don't know. Cool, man. And
I'm going to take videos of my kids kind of going, internet. Like,
So you're doing the wedding thing, but what about the throwdown? How's that going to go?
Oh, we're having that. So she planned her wedding. My sister, bless her heart, she planned her wedding around Thanksgiving and the throwdown. And I'm actually
That is,
we get there early on Sunday, and we're going to the Panthers versus the football team game in Charlotte.
man, it's like you're going to have the time of your life. You're getting to go see your team play. You're gonna you get to spend time with your family. Like that's like your like I can only like I want to live through that with you. You know, that's just,
Well,
and
I
then
do
you get
have
to just
one.
throw
There's a
down.
negative side, Brian. There's a negative side.
No,
We have to leave the poodle with Sarah to babysitter. We're not taking the poodle home. So Patton will be here in Germany with Sarah for the week. 2 weeks.
I'm pretty sure Sarah will spoil the crap out of your dog.
She
So,
definitely will.
yeah, like she's like part of the family anyways now. It's great. You know, it's so I think about these things, right? And I think about like how things when we meet these people, we meet, like Sarah, like you and Sarah and your wife, like she's now family. I mean, literally, she's family. You know what I mean? And it's like that. It's like that everywhere we go. It feels like we always like create
cool.
these bonds. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and those bonds are important because, you know, they allow you to grow different people. You know, Sarah's from Puerto Rico. I don't know what that's like. She shares her experiences. I share mine. You know, so we can kind of see. Actually, Sarah's, we haven't seen her in a week because her mom is here from Puerto Rico right now.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, so they've been whirlwind European tour. I think they did like 5 days in Italy. Like, yeah.
Get all this time off. I wish I had that. Oh,
yeah. So yeah. So we haven't seen her as much, but you know, next weekend I'll cook. She'll show up.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, I just got to cook. I just got to cook something good.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So, Ed, it's funny. We brought up that we talked about relationships and building relationships and just the idea of it. And what we're going to cover today, for those of you out there, you've already heard us talk about it multiple times. We're going to talk about mentoring, which mentoring in its own way is building relationship, you know, and we're going to talk about that part. We got this really cool, it was not really an article. It's actually more like I guess it was built for a group in, let's say, County of San Mateo Human Resources, and their department is Santa Clara Water Valley District. So
yeah, it's kind of like a workbook.
Yeah, it's like a workbook that this organization put together. It's really cool though because of how they built it, where you can fill in stuff. But you know what I really liked, and you're going to read a quote in a little bit. But what I really liked was on the very first page, and I may put this on our Facebook page too. That way people can download it themselves. But it had these 3 quotes, and each one of them were I thought that all 3 quotes were amazing. So the very first one was by Denzel Washington, and Denzel Washington, I mean, when he says stuff, I listen because Denzel, you know?
Yeah.
He says, show me a successful individual and I'll show you someone who had real positives influences in his or her life. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then Oprah, the next one, says, a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. That right there, that speaks to the core. That speaks. And then the final one is by John Crosby. It says, mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. That one right there, like it was almost like they were building, but that one right there, it's like, it's that person that you get to reach out to. You can kind of, you know, dig into their brain, or that somebody that will listen to you, that can help give you advice or even just listen. And then that, because how many times, like, have you done something or thought about doing something and somebody said to you, Ed, well, just go do it. You know what? You what's the worst that could happen? At least you tried. You know, something like that.
Yeah, no, and so when I see that last one, Brian, that makes me think of that's my siblings. That's our relationship right there.
Is it?
Yeah, and then you gotta add the brutal honesty to it. Like, that's stupid. What are you thinking? But yeah, no, that is very much like them. That's my siblings. And in our little group chat on the Book of Faces, that's an opportunity for us to do these things. Like, so yeah, it is a good way to bounce things off of each other and it kind of push to do something else, something bigger, something better, to take those risks. So yeah, that's excellent. I like that quote.
It's constantly growing together too. I mean,
yeah,
and that's the way I've always kind of see it. Like, not only is the person being mentored growing, but also the mentor themselves, they're growing, because then, I mean, maybe they're dealing with an experience and they're trying to help guide somebody through that they didn't have to do, but they're now learning from it and they're helping someone. So yeah. All right. So we're going to get into this right off the bat here. It talks about defining mentorship, Ed. And I really do like this. It says, what is mentoring? Mentoring is a relationship between an experienced professional, the mentor, who shares their knowledge, skills, and experience with another professional, the mentee, to assist in their career progression. Now, here's another quick quote. Mentoring is to support and encourage people to manage their own learning in order that they may maximize their potential, develop their skills, improve their performance, and become the person they want to be. That's an Eric Palso, the Oxford School of Coaching and Mentoring. What do you got? I mean, like, when we go with opening this up, what are you thinking when you hear those definitions?
Well, I think that what stood out to me is the may maximize their potential, because a lot of times we don't maximize our potential, or we think we've reached our potential, but then that outside source, that mentor, may be like, no, you haven't, and here's why, but here's how you can,
Right.
grab some more of that potential. Because when you think you've maximized your potential, I think it was the great David Goggins that said there's 10-20% more is still there. You haven't reached your potential completely yet. So that's kind of what stood out for me on that, those two little quotes to open up the episode, Brian.
Oh yeah. So, and one of our old bosses used to talk about all the time, hey, what people are promoted on is potential. And you would be kind of like, oh yeah, I got it. But it's what I did too. Well, yeah, but they're looking at what you did to say, yeah, you were able to do this, so you have the potential to do this. So yeah, I'm definitely, like, that's like the key indicator, like, to me, and developing skills. We all know we need more development.
Well, and that goes with the potential too, Brian, because, so like you said, they look at our potential when they promote, but they also look at what we've done, because what we've done shows them, it provides them, it illustrates for them how we've already grown, and they can see that we haven't become stagnant and that we still have potential to continue to grow. So I think that those two things play really nice together, the develop their skills along with the maximized potential.
Yes. No, exactly. So one of the things here it talks about too is, it talks about mentoring. It's a powerful professional development tool. It's a powerful professional development tool. So I think the key thing is to keep that in your mind. Like, this is a tool and I have to develop the person. Sometimes what happens is I think we jump into, and this as well as I do, we jump into that, let's just answer their questions. Let's just give them solutions. And mentoring is not, it's not about just giving solutions. It's actually about guiding, an effective way to help individuals progress in their career, right? So you and I, we know this. In the services, it's way different. We all understand a certain aspect. Like, for instance, you knew what it was like to go from being a sergeant to a staff sergeant because other people showed you the way, or going from a staff sergeant to a sergeant first class. You were able to learn those things, but until you made it, you really couldn't effectively use those tools. And that's the whole point. It's like you have to go through learning these things, and sooner or later, you get in that position. And you're like, oh, this is how it works. And we make mistakes, I mean, along the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's also about, this is what I like. It's about long range career planning and or improving certain skills and abilities. So like, it's not like you get a mentor, Ed, that's okay, I'm just gonna have this mentor for 2 months. No, it's lifelong learning, what we talk about.
Yes.
The bearded ninja, we talk about him all the time. Like, I I even put it like when I get to go have that lunch with or that dinner with him, and I took a picture. Like it felt good because we still communicate, whether it be through Messenger, through email, whatever. But it felt good to finally like get to sit down and talk with him and hang out with him, as my mentor. That's why I consider him as a mentor, just like Joshua Bryan or, talking with you. Like you're, to me, you have life experience over me for sure. And you've been in the Army longer than me too.
I'm slightly older than you. Slightly.
Dude, you're like 50.
But
not
right? Yet.
Whatever. Yeah.
So this one here, Brian, I agree with you. This is a really good point too. You talk about the long range career planning, and we have an advantage in the military because we have those career maps, which I actually remember when those weren't really a thing either. But those career maps kind of show you where you should be at this many years in the military, where you should be at this many, what schools you should have, because those schools are how you develop those skills and those abilities that make you have that potential for the next, progression. And I think that that's a good thing because you got to build, and when they say skills, there's a lot of different skills it could be. But for me, I think leadership skills is one that whether you're military, whether you're civilian sector, doesn't matter. And how can I improve those leadership skills, And so recently sitting on a promotion board, young specialist comes in looking to be promoted to sergeant. And that was one of the questions was, what are you doing to better yourself as an NCO? And he said, well, I read. Well, what do you read? Well, I read, and you'll love this, Brian. I read Simon Sinek. And I said, oh really? Okay. What's your favorite book by Simon Sinek? And he says, I really like Leaders Eat Last. And I said, we will sit down and talk later. But he understood that these books are helping him, though, as a soldier to develop to become a leader and then a better leader and then a better leader. And I was really taken aback by it because usually a young specialist, I mean, you're what, 23, 24, right? So there's still some immaturity there, but the soldiers showed a great level of maturity with that. Hey, this is what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, oh, wait, kind of.
He grabbed he struck your chord. That's what he did.
I was like, whoa, Simon Sinek, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So what's funny too? I don't know how long ago was this that this took place.
That was this month's board. That was the September board, promotion board.
It's great. Like I literally just posted. I got a peer who's in the academy with here, and she had posted that she just finished reading that same book the third time. She's read it 3 times. I'm like, oh my goodness. So what I did, I was like, hey, that's a great book. I love everything he does. Maybe you should check out Great Leaders Have No Rules by Kevin Cruz. And then she replied back like, I'm totally going to check it out. I'm like, like it's funny how we can share that stuff. That's probably one of my favorite, Simon Sinek books. The Infinity Game's pretty good because it basically kind of gets you in that idea of, listen, you got to play the long game. There's no short game in life, when it comes to leadership. Hey, you want to go over a mentor is what we're going to talk about with that right there?
Yeah. So a mentor, a guide to help the mentee navigate their professional journey, a trusted and respected advisor, someone that explores with the mentee their current career situation, what they wish to achieve, and how they can go about reaching their goals without prescribing solutions or career routes. So you're not telling them this is the way you're going to go. This is the way. And someone that provides support and advice that empowers the mentee to explore, establish, and pursue goals. And I think this support and advice, I think this is because you're talking about respected advisor, and I think support and advise is very important because that's how you don't give them the answers to the test, but you show them the way to study for the test.
Yes.
You're helping them to get there, but you're not saying this is the only way to go because everybody has a different path. My path to staff sergeant, my path to whatever is not the same as every other 92 alpha in the military. And it's the same thing in the civilian sector. Your path to success, maybe I took a longer route, maybe you have a hard charger, like supercharged guy or gal in your organization, and they, they advance quickly.
Right.
And then, of course, some people are going to be like, well, they did this or that to get there. And they didn't. You're just jealous. So you got those different paths, and that mentor has to understand that there's not a cookie cutter. This is the only way to be successful. There are multiple ways.
Those 4 bullets that you read, what I take from that, Ed, was it's not about the mentor themselves, because it's just talking about like these characteristics, almost, which we're going to get into qualities of a good mentor, but it's really about, okay, like it's this person that's going to guide another person. It's somebody doing something for someone else. So let's say you have Joe. I'm mentoring Joe Snuffy. Me mentoring Joe Snuffy doesn't mean I'm getting something out of it per se. Now, I may get something out of it by helping someone. It makes me feel good. So
chemical release. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So let's back it up. A couple episodes ago, we talked about community service, and we talked about doing things for others. To me, and I said I was going to link these together last episode. That's basically, you're doing like a community, like almost like a community service where you're helping someone and you get nothing for it other than that chemical release, maybe. And that's the key thing. Like it's like, you don't have to be in their direct support or their direct chain of command or anything like that to be a mentor. And I think sometimes, this is just me, Ed, I think sometimes that's the best mentorship, because then they definitely have no skin in the game whatsoever. And it kind of helps that free thinking, because let's say, I'm mentoring Sergeant First Class Joe Snuffy as a first sergeant, right? Well, we still have a mission, we still have a goal, and I have to keep that in the forefront. We have a commander's intent, so we have to still focus on that. Sometimes maybe that mentorship is curbed because of the mission, because we have to do it, versus I'm Master Sergeant such and such working in this area, and then I have Sergeant First Class Joe Snuffy who works in another company. I have no skin in the game with them. So all I'm doing is I'm thinking about their well-being first, or their growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and mentorship can be more than just, their career path. So I told you a story earlier, Brian. I got this tasking that we're working on, and we had to develop a transportation plan,
right?
Pick people up at the airport, take them to the hotel. And that young staff sergeant came to me and was like, hey, here's my plan. And I looked at his plan. I saw one flaw, and I said, okay, but by your plan, this person would have to be at the airport for 2 hours waiting on the next flight with that person. So I said, do you think maybe we could swing just a vehicle for him so that he doesn't have to wait? And he looked and he's like, yeah, that would work. So I mentored him. I didn't give him the answer. I just said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. And then he looked at it and he's like, that does make sense. So you're providing some level of mentorship to him. I never met this guy until he got tasked to me for this event about a month ago. Never met him, because our organization is like 800 people. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like now, and then you have conversations and you're like, oh, he's waiting to get promoted. And we're like, oh, well, what are you going to do next? Well, I haven't done broadening, and now I can get into his career, even though we're not the same occupational specialty. I can still, because I know, okay, well, you need prior broadening. What have you thought about? So it was a mentorship opportunity. And I really wasn't even thinking of it like that. I was just thinking, I'm not giving him the answer. And I kept telling my captain, I'm not going to micromanage them. Here's what I need to happen on the end of the day on Monday. Make that happen. And they did. So
that's amazing. And you can't, it's funny. Like, you can feel when somebody has that drive and you're like, yeah, I really want to mentor this person, versus, and I hate to say it, there are some that's just, you're like, okay, you're just a busy bee and that's it. I don't think you really are looking for X, Y, and Z in a career. But definitely this show is definitely going to hit upon mainly the mentor themselves and how to go about everything through that process.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about some qualities of a good mentor. And these are just a few that they have written down, and you'll probably have some to add to it. I know I do. I figured you did. So let me read down through these, and I want to hear what you added to it, and maybe it's probably going to go along the lines of me. So first, qualities of mentor, and this is just bullet points. So those of you listening, take this into consideration. Honest, trustworthy, supportive, listener, approachable, and open. What do you got to add to it, Ed?
So first one, let's start with honest. I think that you could do honest / candid. I think that you have to be, honest. They kind of go together, but they don't. I can be honest, but sugarcoat it. But when you're candid, you eliminate that kind of sugarcoating from it.
Right.
And then for the supportive, Brian, what I was thinking is, so when we say supportive, that is the mentor has to be willing to devote the time and effort into mentoring that mentee. So that when you look at supportive, I think that's where that falls is, it is not easy. It's not a 5-minute thing. It takes time. And I know that this product was developed by an HR specialist for a company. So that, they talk about meeting with the mentee and all these other things, but we do it too. We have monthly counselings, right?
Yes.
And things like that. So I do think that there is an amount of time that a mentor has to understand that and be willing to provide. Under listener, I added the constructive feedback, right? So we've talked about active listening so many times on this show. And we've talked about feedback many, many times. But part of that being a good listener is to be able to take it, process what you're hearing, right? First of all, don't interrupt, listen to what they're saying. And they should do the same thing. They should listen to the mentor without interrupting. And then be able to process it and then provide some kind of constructive feedback. And then I added knowledgeable. I think it's important for the mentor to be knowledgeable, whether it be in leadership, whether it be in your particular occupation, whatever it is, and then eager to learn. So this one was a little bit different. I found this online. But the mentor has to be willing to learn too, because even though you're mentoring someone, right, they have something to offer too, and you may learn something from them, and that goes into the whole realm of our pretty much our theme of lifelong learning. So as the mentor, you're giving something, but be aware, be open, and be willing to take something back. And for me, every time I have a chance to mentor somebody, I'm looking for opportunities to take something from them that I can then use and add to my kit bag. And then I think the mentor has to be successful at whatever it is. If it's their career, if it's a leader, you don't want Joe, the terrible soldier, mentoring your younger soldiers, because then it can cause some damage to that mentee. So those are just a couple of things. There's so many more we could add. Brian, do you have something to add?
Oh yeah. I was trying to write them out so I could look them up on the board because I had them elsewhere. So first thing, I think, Ed, relatable. If you are a relatable person, you have to be relatable, because and I guess it's like being able to show empathy in certain situations, but if you can relate to the mentee and what they're facing, what it does is it helps personalize a little bit. All right. And before we go any further, Ed, those of you who are not watching the video, I need you to watch the video, because as Ed moves his head just right, he's got this little picture behind him, and it looks like he's got like crazy longhorns, antlers coming out the side of his head of the flag. Like, yeah.
They're angel wings.
Yeah, well, it looks great. It looked great on your head. That's a pretty cool picture, by the way. So if any of you haven't watched, go to the if you're listening, go to the YouTube. Just watch it on the YouTube. It's great.
And you'll find just below it the championship trophy. All right, continue, Brian.
And I was going to bring that up in a minute, so don't let me forget. We were going to talk about.
I'll let you see it while you talk about it.
Actually, I'm not going to talk about it right now. But so I got relatable.
All right.
How about critical and creative thinker? You have to be a critical and creative thinker, because what if you're mentoring somebody through something where it's similar to what you've experienced, but not like it. You've got to be able to think outside the box. You get, or as they say, you got to be able to kind of like come up with different questioning techniques.
Yeah.
How about another one? This one strikes a chord with me because I've met people that are not this, but risk adverse. You have to be able to take into risk, because if you give somebody advice and it is risky, can you imagine the damage that you're going to create, not only with that person, every person that knows you, like you're going to create a whole web of distrust. So we talked about being trustworthy earlier, but risk adverse is a big thing. Don't put somebody in a situation that they shouldn't. And then the last one I kind of thought about, I feel like it's inspirational. If you're an inspirational person, in a sense, right? It doesn't mean you have to, like, every word that comes off your tongue is the greatest thing in the world. No, what I mean by is you can inspire people to continue to act, to continue to press forward. It's the encouraging words. It's the things that that the person was doubting it of doing something. You've talked to them, and now they're going to proceed on. And it could be something as like saying, "Hey, if you fail, what's the worst thing that can happen?" And you make them go through that, So, but those are the 4 that I kind of came up with. I felt like really hit the chord to actually, describe the qualities.
I think I'm sorry, bro. I just wanted to say, I think the relatable, I'm actually ashamed that I didn't come up with that one. I mean, we had approachable, but I really thought that relatable was a really strong one from you, but not as strong as that. To me, your strongest one, critical and creative thinker. That's your strongest one, because you got to be able to get out the box. Again, I said earlier, there's no cookie cutter to being a mentor, and you have to be able to get outside the box and help people. And I think that's where that creative and critical thinker comes in, because you're also not, especially you. So you're going to be a SAR major. You've been a first SAR. Everything that comes in your office is not going to be, oh, I've seen this a million times. Now, yes, there are going to be some things, you're going to have soldiers with finance problems. You're going to have soldiers involved in, maybe drugs, alcohol abuse, domestic violence. We know those are like ones you're going to see multiple times. But then when you peel back the onion, the calls to those things could be way different than what you've ever seen, or they could come in something new that you've never seen. And that's where that creative and critical thinker as a mentor comes in, is to kind of get out of there and be like, okay, I got to look at this and really figure out how to help this person to continue their development. So I thought that was your strongest point. I thought it was really probably one of the best ones. I'm going to write the author and tell them they should be ashamed of themselves for not having that one.
Oh yeah, no, I think I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just so someone who I'm considering as a mentor right now. He's one of my instructors. We just finished our first semester, and he says that a lot, right? I hear him say it all the time. And I'm thinking, man, yeah, he's got a point. And I guess he said it so much that it struck a chord in my head that it's like, you constantly have to be doing this, So, so we're going to move on, Ed. We're going to move on to mentor expectations. You want to kind of kick us off with this? Take us down that road?
Let me alt tab to get to it. Mentor expectations. As a mentor, you will meet with your mentee a minimum of 4 times within a 12-month period. And these, to me, Brian, the only thing about these is the organization may dictate something different, maybe more frequent, less frequent. So you just got to keep that in mind, that this was written for a particular organization. Right. But I think they're pretty good guiding ideas, right?
Yes.
So when you're having these meetings, you're going to review and discuss his or her feedback, their resume, or other relevant materials. You're going to assist with your mentee with the development of an employee development plan, and be familiar with and recommend internal and external development activities. So for us, Brian, we've said it many times, for the military, this is just a professional counseling. This is a professional growth counseling, if you think about it, right? Like, employee development plan is just saying professional growth counseling for us. So I think it's good. I really, actually, to me, as a senior NCO getting towards retirement, I think it's refreshing to see that civilian organizations are doing something that's so similar to what we do. I mean, yeah, we meet every month with them, right? But I mean, 4 times within 12 months, that's fair. So I think this is really good. And this is giving you as the mentor a good snapshot of where your mentee is. I think 4 times, I mean, I'm willing to bet an organization is not going to say, 4 times is the minimum. But if you wanted to meet 6 times a year, I don't think an organization will be like, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? Because that's just what you're more comfortable with. So I do see the value in it, of course, because we use developmental counseling and professional growth counseling in the military. Yeah. So as a mentor, these mentor expectations, I think that's pretty good, Brian.
Yeah. So we're not going to go through the actual sample meeting schedule that they have on here. However, so one, I am going to post this to the Facebook page. I think this is a great tool for people to look at. However, under meeting 2 and meeting 3, there was a key thing that really struck a chord with me, and it kind of hits one of the qualities. You can tell what it is. It's not the review action one.
Yeah.
It says check in regarding any challenges, roadblocks, or questions and suggestions, additional development activities. So that the one that strikes the chord with me the most, Ed, is the roadblocks. Because I love roadblocks. I don't know why. I just love them. I love it when people bring me roadblocks, because I'm just like, okay, we're building bridges, we're building tunnels, you know what I mean? Like, I like to use that metaphor. You brought up something that was great earlier.
I did.
Yep. It was no. It was before we started talking about the show. You talked about the board. You was talking about the Sergeant Major's question on the board.
Yeah.
And you want to explain it a little bit before I go further and why I like that?
Yeah. So I was telling you about it because, down the line, you're going to be a president of the board. And so we got a new Sergeant Major in, and he added this topic to the board. And with the military, a Sergeant Major is the senior enlisted advisor. He does not have a vote on the board, but he's the president. So it's his board, but no vote. And he added the declination diagram, which is where at the bottom of your map, it'll show you true north, grid north, and magnetic north, because they're not all the exact same, right? And then so he'll ask the soldier, what is the declination diagram? And they explain it to him in their own words. And then he says, okay, now use that to describe your leadership style or how you lead. Or how can you apply that to leadership? And, you get all kinds of answers. I think one of the ones I liked is, because when you look at it, for those watching, you'll see my hands, but you got your true north, and then, a little bit off is your grid and magnetic north. But to me, true north is doctrine. It's the policy, right? But
right.
You have to be flexible. So sometimes you may have to you're still going to be going north. You're still going towards your objective, but you may have to come off and go a little bit more towards the magnetic north, because this particular thing doesn't fit into a cookie cutter policy, into policy. So you got to figure out how to get there without violating anything. And I think that's kind of one of the ones that I've liked so far. I've only sat on one board when he did it, and that's basically what the soldier said is, it's a guiding principle that everything isn't going to always be north. Sometimes the answer is off a little bit, and you've got to figure that out as leaders. So.
Yeah. And so what I took from that, and as soon as you said, like, I drew the diagram up here on my board. Like, as you were saying it, I actually drew it up here on the board. And this was earlier when we were talking before the show started. And I put on the declination diagram of mentorship. And I thought to myself, that matches perfectly. Like, you could literally write a book, Ed, on the declination diagram of mentorship, because you have the direction the person needs to go, but then there's the off canter, just like you said. Fort Campbell, the declination diagram is 3%. 3% is what it is. I only remember that because I've been there for too many years. Yeah, but knowing that you can be slightly off, and that's that part of that. That's that roadblocks we talked about, right? And that questions. Like, I think a big part of mentorship is asking the right questions to help with that declination diagram and to get there. But yeah, I digress. Let us move on.
All right, Brian.
So we're going to move on to the rules of the road. And this is definitely a key element that people should focus on, all right, when it comes to mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
So as a mentor, you will help your mentee navigate a career path and or improve goals through a series of coaching conversations and the creation of a development plan with goals, targets, and timeframes. Mentoring is a learning partnership that, when done effectively, can be beneficial for both the mentee and mentor. Below are several ways that will assist you in establishing a trusting relationship and building rapport with your mentee. And that's key in it, right? So start from where your mentee is at, like knowing their current location, right?
Yeah,
and you
where
and I,
they fall in things.
yeah, you and I will go back and forth and bring up each one, but let me start with that. Where is start point? Where's the SP? Where are we starting from so we know where to go? If you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to where you're going, right? We can use map reading, right? We taught map reading at the basic level, but what's one of the first things we do is we teach them how to plot where they are. Well, how do you plot where somebody is in the mentorship process? That's by finding out stuff about them, right? What are their
conversation?
Goals? Yep. Yeah, exactly. What are their goals in life? What are the things that they would like to try to achieve? What are the things that they have achieved? So like their experiences, all these things. That's the part of it that you have to understand. Where are we starting from?
Absolutely.
All right. What's next?
So the next one's put your intern at ease by being open and approachable. And I think you could get rid of that whole intern thing. Put your mentee at ease by being open and approachable. Listen, you can't run around being grumpy cat. And your mentee is not going to only have a question or an issue that they want you to address when it's convenient for you. You may be busy. You may have a lot going on. And then they're going to, hey, you got a minute? But you need to understand that. And then you also, not only that, but you also have to be able to be honest enough and say, hey, you know what? Can you come back in 30? I'm in the middle of something. Can you come back in about 30 minutes? And then we'll sit down and talk. But being open, making them comfortable to come in there to see you. And so, back at the academy, this is our thing, right? Back at the academy, I remember being in my office. I was over there working for the Bearded Ninja.
Yes.
And two young staff sergeants came and knocked on my door. I was on lunch.
I remember.
And they came in and they were new and they were in the instructor course. They weren't even certified to be instructors yet. And they came in and both of them at the same time was like, hey, Sergeant, can you be our mentor? And so to me, that spoke to how approachable I was, which I was only approachable because Sarah told me to grow my hair out and made me more approachable. So at that point, I had grown my hair out. But yeah, it does. Looking back, and honestly, that just popped in my head. I never even thought of it when I read the article before. It just popped in my head that, like, wow, like I gave them the impression that I was that open and approachable, that they were comfortable within their first 2-3 weeks working with me to come to me and say, hey, can you be our mentor? So that's what I think. That's one of the rules, for you to be successful and help your mentee to the best of your abilities, which I think I just took one of the next ones.
I think you did, but how about the next one? The very next one is advise and support your mentee to the best of your ability without problem solving for them. This is that combination of mentorship and coaching, because coaching is you're just kind of guiding them through with the right questioning. You're not giving them the answer. And that's the key thing. I think a big part of mentorship, Ed, is if you're asking the right questions, you're allowing them to develop a solution. You're not giving them the solution, right? And that, I think too many times, maybe it's maybe in a mentorship situation, the mentee may say, well, how would you do it? That's where, as the mentor, we have to back up and we say, well, no, it's not how I would do it. Let's evaluate the situation. And then you start the questioning process and you let them guide them through it,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one there, Brian, is also, so that one can be a challenge. That can be a challenge for you as the mentor too, right? Because you maybe know, like, this is the solution. This is probably your best course of action, whatever. So you have to be able to have enough self-control, enough intestinal fortitude to say, you know what, I know the answer to this, but let me get them to the answer. Let me help guide them through the questioning. So I think that's a development for the mentor too, man. Being able to do that and recognizing the need to do that develops you as the mentor.
I think that leads you right into the very next bullet, buddy.
Oh, thanks. Practice focused listening, meaningful reflection, and sincere communication of interest. So I had some notes on this communication of interest, but so basically, what we've talked about communication before. So nonverbal cues are important to show that interest, right? Being able to summarize your discussion at the backside after it's all done, So if I'm understanding this correctly, Brian, here are your goals, and these are the steps you're going to take before our next time getting together to talk about this. I think those are really key right there for the sincere communication. And then I talked about earlier, don't interrupt the mentor, don't interrupt the mentee. Those are also very important to giving that sincere interest, showing them I really care about what you're saying right now.
Yes. Oh yeah. Like I like how you brought that in, because what you're doing is you're creating that active listening, and they know you're paying attention because you're repeating, you're reflecting, you're doing a reflection, as they call it in communication, of what they're saying. I'm going to skip that next one, because I think that kind of is like tongue in cheek. We know this. The following one that I really like: be honest and candid regarding feedback, particularly of goals, opportunities, and everything else. Being honest and candid. It's not being like a jerk about it, right? Like, no, I wouldn't do that. There's a way to be honest and candid. Yeah. Like if I'm talking to you, there's a certain way I can talk to you, and I know you'll take it a certain way, right? And if I get out of hand, or I start tweaking things that shouldn't be tweaked, or saying certain types of things that shouldn't be said, you're no longer going to feel trusted, and you're not going to of me. You're no longer going to want to basically approach me anymore, because you're like, oh, every time I bring something up, he's just negative Nancy. Like you're the same way I'm about. I don't want to be around negative people. I don't like negativity. Obviously, you have to deal with negative people sometimes, but if I don't have to be around you, I won't be. So I think that whole being honest and candid, it's a long road of knowing how to say and what to say at the right times.
Yeah, no, and that's why I brought up candid when we were doing our qualities of a mentor. I added candid to the honest, and honestly, it wasn't honest, but it wasn't because of this. But yeah, the honest and the candid they're hand in hand.
Yes,
and I think during feedback, like if you sugarcoat feedback, you're creating the new norm for that person. And it may not be valuable. You may be hurting the organization by not being honest and candid with them when you provide the feedback. So super important. Yeah,
absolutely. What you got next for us?
Encourage your mentee to involve their manager in the process and to keep them informed. So you may have a mentee, and the mentee is not a direct report to you. They don't work straight for you. And you don't want to eliminate, whatever their hierarchy is. So they should know, the manager should know what's going on. What are they working towards? You don't have to get into the weeds and the detail. You don't need to have a second meeting like you have with your mentor, the mentor-mentee meeting, but just a kind of a big, large paintbrush, broad stroke it. Here's what's going on, just so that they're situationally aware of what's going on, and maybe that supervisor or manager may notice something that they can provide to you to take back to your mentor, or they may provide to your mentor to help you in your development that they see. So another set of eyes, another perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like how nice is it to let's say you have a subordinate, right? And you know that they've been mentored by somebody else. and that subordinate comes back to you and says, hey, I was talking with such and such, and we come up with this plan to do X, Y, and Z. And then you're like, yeah, that would work. Why don't I do this with everybody else? Right. Like, so you're creating that. You're not just creating like a small avenue for one person. You could actually like be opening up a whole group of people to this mentorship thing.
Yeah.
Or what you're mentoring somebody on. You think about it, like Ed. And that's what I love. I love referring to academy stuff, right? Because we're touching we're not touching, but we're involving ourselves with so many different people. You think about it. We were teaching 16 students in every classroom. Those 16 students were from normally 16 different organizations. And when they would go back to those organizations, they maybe had anywhere from 2 to 10 people that they directly engaged with. So if you think about it, let's just say each one had 5. That's 5 times 16 that you were literally possibly engaging and not even knowing it. And
times
that's what's
9
great
classes
about it.
a year.
Yeah. Like
9
that's
classes
a lot.
a year. Like,
Yeah.
Your sphere of influence is like massive. Yeah.
Yeah. And
or
that
can be.
And so we could even go further. When you were an instructor of instructors, you were working through the CFDIC, which is it's a great organization that Rick Williams, the Bearded Ninja, runs there at Campbell.
Yep.
You're basically doing the same thing, and it's branching out even further because you got students that are coming from other schools, not just the BLC or the basic leader course. You got the MLC, the master leader course. You got like the medics. You got all these different things going on. So the sphere is huge, right? Let's talk about assist the mentee with building a better relationship or coping skills if issues arise regarding his or her manager or colleagues. So this is one of those things. Is like you're basically teaching patience. Like how to be patient with things or how to
conflict resolution kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And to me, like conflict resolution, like how many times do you get a mission and you're like, this is the stupidest thing ever. And you want to just, you want to push back on it. And then you're like, but I can't because I still have to do it. So I better accept it. It's like, it's one of those things. Sometimes some people, they get so wrapped around the axle of, well, this is so stupid that they've wasted so much energy on that. They've turned it into a bigger problem than what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then, and then they don't know the other part of things. They don't know the big picture of things. So, I shared with you, I was having issue getting one of the soldiers tasked to me to come participate because their leadership was like, no, they're so busy. But what they don't know is, we're going to provide awards for all the soldiers that participate. So you're so worried about not giving up one person that you're not thinking about what's the big picture. So for people that don't know, in the military, awards equal promotion points equals more, moving you closer towards getting promoted to that next grade. And so you don't know that you may be causing your soldier to miss out on that. Because you don't want to, you have this conflict and we're so busy, and I tried my conflict resolution skills, but ultimately it didn't work as well as I wanted to. But eventually it did.
Not always,
but different.
Not always,
but you do know them.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
and you share them. Yeah.
So what's our next one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
no, go ahead.
You can't solve all your problems with a hammer. Sometimes a feather will do it, or just a word will, everything isn't Hulk smash. So people need to understand that, but you as the mentor need to be able to teach that to your mentee. And so you and I, Brian, we went through an interesting time in the military because we went into a time where we were there for the transition from where leaders believed Hulk smash was the answer to everything to the time when providing the why is the solution to most things now. You know what I mean? Like Hulk smash is ineffective. And I just read something, because I'm getting ready for my transition. I just read something, and Hulk smash is not the answer in the civilian sector. That's absolutely not the answer. So you got to keep that in mind, and when you're teaching your mentee. So our final point, Ryan, Ensure that both your supervisor and the mentee supervisor are aware of and approve of time commitments. So I had to learn a lesson very early. I used to tell my NCO, hey, I'm going to do this. And they're like, are you asking me or are you telling me? And I think that kind of applies here. Like, you also have a boss. Even though you're a mentor, you have somebody. And you need to let them know, hey, on Monday, I'd like to take 30 minutes to sit down with Schmugatelli. And they'll say, oh, yeah, that'll work. Or maybe they say, oh, that doesn't work. But then they'll probably come back and say, well, what about 30 minutes on Tuesday? Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. Another day, that's fine. But you have to make sure your boss is in the loop. And then the
Right.
mentee side, you got to make sure the mentee, either they're informing their supervisor or you're informing them that, hey, we're going to sit down next week for about 30 minutes. I'd like to have Schmugatelli on Tuesday for 30 minutes, if that's okay. Boom. So it's just a discussion. It's just a common professional courtesy to let people know in the event that the mentee supervisor is different than yours, like in this scenario. But if it's the same, that's even easier, right? Because it's literally you going to your boss and saying, hey, I'm going to provide some guidance and mentorship to Schmugatelli. I just need to know when is a good time for us as an organization for me to sit down for about 30 minutes. So
Yes.
just getting somebody into the discussion outside of just you and your mentee.
Yeah. And so I guess I would say, let's say there is that person like that I'm directly supervising, and they say, hey, I'm going to such and such for mentorship. I need to learn also my ego as the leader of this individual, that it's okay for that person to go outside of my area or realm or whatever it is, my span of control, to get advice. That is okay. Like, I think sometimes what happens is people get stuck around the axle that they think, oh, I'm the leader, I'm supposed to be the one that's doing all this for. No, maybe that person just doesn't relate to you or doesn't have that relationship yet. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You cannot force mentorship or leadership. Really, you can't even force leadership and it be effective.
Mm-hmm.
It's about persuasion, right? I mean, it's about motivating, inspiring, persuading, all those things. And I've never seen a forced motivation and it work ever.
No.
I've never seen it. You could say, hey, we're doing these things a certain way, different schools that we know about, like there's a certain way to do it and you will do it this way, but that doesn't induce motivation. It just says, okay, I'll work hard because I don't want to fail at it, that type of thing. So Ed, this is the plan here. Let's run through these mentorship tips. We kind of run through those, but I have a little bit further in our packet. It talks about like power questions and stuff. And there's some really good questions I just wanted to pose out there to our audience that I thought, man, this is, I mean, it's simple questioning, but it opens up that creative and critical thinking on the mentee side also. All right. So let's look at mentorship tips. As a mentor, your role is to guide the meeting, ask questions, and listen. Remember, you are not here to solve the mentee's issues or do the work for them. You're a coach and guide for them. They are in the driver's seat, so they're controlling the situation. So first thing right off the bat, encourage the mentee to come prepared and bring relative material and information to the meeting. This is basically, to me, that will signal, if you tell them to come prepared and they come prepared, that signals to me that they're honestly wanting to learn. They want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I could not agree with you more. I was literally thinking that exact thing when I read it.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's that whole, they're prepared. They want it. So if somebody shows up, Ed, and they said, hey, I want you to be my mentor, and you set aside time in your busy day, and they just showed up and they're just standing there and they didn't bring anything or bring any thoughts, what's your thought you feel as an individual trying to mentor someone?
Yeah, to me, it would come across like I care more about your progression than you care about your progression then. Because you're not bringing anything to the table. You're coming empty-handed, So
Yeah.
it just, to me, that's how it would come across. Now, I wouldn't turn them away. We still try to conduct business to the best of our abilities, but in the back of my mind, there would be a little bit of like, questioning going on.
But you can even turn that into a mentorship, like,
Absolutely.
when you're coming to these things, you probably should bring some thoughts and ideas. But yeah, which one? I mean, obviously I think number 2 is kind of, we know that we understand that. So what do you want to go with next?
Discuss action items from the previous meeting with the meeting preparation form. Do not judge your mentee if he or she does not complete all action items. Discuss the roadblocks in completing the items. Give support. New commitments for action items can be set. And the reason I like this one is we were talking about earlier about effective and active listening. And when you are able to go back to the previous meeting and have a discussion of those, just to highlight those points, right? That's showing what an effective listener you are to the mentee. And that's letting them know that you're taking this very serious. So beyond all the other stuff in that blurb, the roadblocks, and don't judge the mentee, I think that's really the important takeaway, is to just recap what we talked about. And maybe the mentee came up with something new that may add, and maybe where it says new commitments for action items can be set, maybe recalling the last conversation could lead us to some new action items that we can set up. So that's kind of where I went with it. And again, communication, so important.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go to the next one. Establish new objectives for each time you meet together. To me, it's like, you don't want to keep working on the same old thing. You should have already passed that, or you should have already gained that new knowledge, or you should have already done better. Sometimes the outcomes will be about other issues that have come up. Once issues are resolved, the mentor can bring the mentee back to the original goals set and how to accomplish them, right? So you could have that initial meeting together, and there's these original goals that you came up with, but those goals have caused sub goals and sub goals to sub goals and problems and roadblocks and all these things. So it's not like this perfect little picture that just goes linear. I think I would consider it like a spider web, right? You're in the middle, and you got to build from the middle all the way out to the spider web. If you watch a spider, they're moving all over the place because they happen to create this web. I think it's the same thing. You're moving all over the place to kind of help induce that thought process.
Yes.
What you got? Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree completely. No, so I like the next one too, Brian, because it talks about sharing your ideas. So it's explore set objectives, ask questions, share and coach. Share and coach. The mentor is going to ask the mentee what actions need to be taken to achieve their goal. That's when you have the opportunity to ask questions so that the mentee can find their own answer. And then after the mentee explores ideas, the mentor will suggest ideas and share experiences. So one thing I wanted to share with our audience and with you is, again, as I start the transition process, I have been reading some new books. One of them was Mission America, and it was by retired Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. And in it, he gives you a bunch of books to read to help. And one of the things he talks about is veterans tend to not be able to effectively tell their story in interviews. So here with the mentee, sharing your experiences, being an effective storyteller can get that buy-in. I've been reading the book. It's called The Storyteller's Secret, and it's by Carmen Gallo. And it highlights the importance of telling a good story. And it gives some examples. Bill Gates telling stories for the speech and when he gives speeches, and there's a few other like very key people. So I think that's important for you as the mentor, is to be able to tell a quick experience story to grab the attention, right? And in that couple of 2 to 3 minutes, you want to be able to grab their attention and make it memorable. So I think as a mentor, you could develop your ability to tell an effective story, and that would help with helping your mentee ask questions, share, and coach.
Absolutely. Like that is a great point. And I think that I think it's kind of like experiential learning to be honest, Ed, like
100%.
with it, you're speaking off of your experiences. You're telling this story. The way I think is a lot of it too is like how you involve the details. Like you don't want to be over detailed, but you don't want to be under detailed. Like you want them to be able to actually picture it in their mind what you're talking about. But we're not talking about giving them answers. We're talking about walking the dog, walking them through a problem that they may, which kind of leads me to the next one. Is about discuss a plan for possible roadblocks.
Yeah, like roadblocks.
Oh, I love roadblocks, man. This will allow the mentee to realize when the roadblock occurs and how to effectively deal with them. So like they're basically, it's almost like, I would say like from what I've just learned from because I just finished my first semester of the academy. Like we closed it out on Friday. I went through the Department of Operations, and in the Department of Operations, you go through a lot of different things. We're talking about unified land operations. You're talking about mission command. You're talking about what's called ADM, the Army Design Methodology, and you're talking about MDMP, the military decision making process. Right. So that military decision making process, there's tons of steps through that. But you're doing a mission analysis, and then you're doing which is another thing called course of actions. So when I see possible roadblocks, I think about, okay, you're doing what in the courses of action piece, and you'll like this one. It's called wargaming. So you take the COAs, each one, and you wargame through those to say, okay, if I do X, enemy's going to do Y. If enemy does Y, I do Z, and then so on and so forth. And you keep going through all the way. Like you play this game, and it's very much like a book that I guarantee you're about to grab, otherwise known as red teaming.
Yeah, no, it's in my office. It's in my office at work.
I think mine's down here.
Yeah, but it is red teaming. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, mine's down there. I can't reach it. It's all the way on the end.
Which involves critical and creative thinking as well to be able to red team effectively.
Right, exactly. So what you're doing is you're helping them through that wargaming process. Joshua Bryan, who is a mentor of mine, who I often reach out to and I ask questions, and he doesn't give me the answers, but he's the one who taught me what wargaming was when I was still a staff sergeant, right before I became a sergeant first class. Like he taught me wargaming and understanding how to think through a process. I want X solution, but I'm at A. Well, I can't just go from A straight to X. I've got to go through the entire alphabet of things. Yeah. There's a lot of things going on there, and that's what's key with it. And that's what I think it's funny with that whole discuss the possible roadblocks. So if we're approaching your goals, and you may not be able to accomplish this. Well, how do you get beyond this? Mm-hmm. It's just, it's working them through that. So that's why I love Roadblocks, because it's wargaming, and I love wargaming. So what you got?
So wargaming is, like I said, was saying, creative and critical thinking in order, because you're really taking an adversarial approach to whatever the problem is. You're trying to think like the adversary, right? And when you say adversary, we're not talking about just wargaming like Normandy in 1944. We're talking wargaming in your organization and trying to figure out like this new product launch is coming and what are some of the impacts, and you're playing devil's advocate is what you're really doing. So that's a good way to kind of look at the roadblocks and how to approach them and how to overcome them. But by wargaming, you're trying to prevent them before you even have them, right?
Yes.
So it gives you that insight. So I think that's excellent, Brian. The next point that I wanted to go over is mentor will establish new action items with the mentee. These action items will forward the mentee to achieving his or her goals. So this totally, I harp on this when I talk to soldiers about counseling in the military on the promotion boards, because this has to be a two-way street. You have to let the mentee say, here's my goals, here's my new action items for the next time we meet. These are the things I want to do, because if you feed it to them, you're going to lack the buy-in from them, because it's your plan, not their plan. But so in this piece here, it actually says let them come up with a few, and then it's okay for me as the mentor to suggest items as well, because now we have a joint thing, right? Like you've given me some, I gave you a couple, and now the buy-in occurs because it was a joint plan, not me
Yeah.
being a dictator and saying you will do this and you will do that, because that doesn't work. I'm telling you, I've done it. I had a soldier, and I used to, as a young sergeant, I was like, you will do 200 correspondence courses or hours this month, and they never achieved it. And now, as I've grown and had more experience, I realize it's because it wasn't their plan. It was my plan. They would always say, well, I think 100 is more doable. No, you're going to do 200. I was trying to rule with iron fist, but at the end of the day, if I'd have just said, okay, 100, well, they said I can do, and that's the buy-in. Now, yeah, are they going to sell themselves short? Sometimes. You got to figure out how, as a mentor, to overcome them selling themselves short and make them realize that's what they're doing. But you can't just dictate the plan. And I think that's really what's key with this one, Brian.
Summing it up, man, one sentence. Don't dictate goals, inspire them. That's the way I see it.
Thanks for making all that unnecessary. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
it's excellent, Brian.
No, like listening to you, that's what came to my head. I was like, man, that's like, don't dictate goals, just inspire them. Makes sense. But I had to hear what you had to say to understand it. So, hey, let's go to this last one, and then we're gonna move on to some power questions, kind of thing. Like, I love these questions. There's 3 pages worth of them. It says closure of a meeting. So I think this is like the closure of any type of discussion. Like within this packet that I'm gonna share on our closed Facebook page. So just remember that it's gonna be shared on it. But within this packet, it's basically a format of like creating meetings and documents and all these things that you can do to help assist. But I think the most critical part is ending out whatever mentorship meeting you're having or conversation. And it says right here, express confidence in the mentee and acknowledge the progress so far. Confirm to do items and next steps. So we can talk about what they did all day long, but if you don't like encourage it, continue to encourage like, hey, you're doing a great job. You're on the right track. You may have went off course here, but that's okay. You still achieved X, Y, and Z. You're building confidence. And when you build the confidence, you build trust. When you build the trust, you build the approachability. So if you're generating what needs to be generated, it's kind of like a hydro dam. You think about it. If it's just a small stream, you're not getting much electricity. But with a hydro dam, if the more water they're letting out, the harder those generators can build and they produce more power. It's the same thing. You're not going to overwhelm them, right? You don't want to create a flood of emotions, hence laying out too much water out of the dam. However, you want to push enough water through that dam that it's going to create enough power to push to the local village in the brain and create these, connective webs of critical thinking and doing more and reaching goals and all these things, right? If you don't have enough power pushing through, then you're never going to make these connections. They're not going to push hard enough. If you have too much power, they're going to feel overwhelmed. They're going to get anxious. Like lots of things can take place. So that's just my idea about it. It's like you got to make a supportive effort of, hey, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Work towards this, and I guarantee you, we're going to make this, this, and this. It's just how much you put into it. That's it. That's all you have to do. So that's what I have, man.
Yeah, no, I think that's that goes along with, that's kind of you're just encouraging them. You just point out their positive traits. You point out their successes, and I think what I always have thought is very important is when we identify a success of somebody, right, who works with us, for us, a mentor, mentee, or a mentee. I think that it's also key to kind of highlight to them how did they have that success, because then that enables them to acknowledge it and then say, you know what, I can continue to do that thing. And then you build those winning streaks where it becomes a norm for them to have those successes. So
yes,
I think that builds that confidence, and you're encouraging them and you're just making them stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, it comes down to like you're building that relationship. But one of the ways you can build it is through good questioning, and good questioning allows you to understand things, right? So in this packet, I talked about this, like it's 3 pages. I got all 3 like sitting here. I like to print everything off, like hard copies of stuff. So I have all 3 pages sitting here in front of me, and I'm looking across, and it actually, what's cool about these questions, Ed, it's like, it breaks it down into certain areas that you could like directly engage. Like, so the very first area is getting started. Then there's values and vision. Then there's goals and actions, life and learning, or actually I like to just call lifelong learning. Then there's relationship and change. And then there's even coaching the evaluation. Like, there's even a thing about questioning on understanding if the mentorship is actually working or not. So I think right in the beginning of it, it talks about the getting started. It says, what do you hope to accomplish through our mentoring relationship? Like, you're literally asking, what do you want from this?
Yeah.
And I, to me, it's like, if you can answer that, and you can do it in a way that's actually understandable. For instance, if you were mentoring me, Ed, and you said, hey, what do you hope to accomplish through this mentorship? And I said, well, I just want to be better. At what? How? Well, why? All these. Yeah, I could throw all the 5
areas, or
I could throw out 5 W's on everything you say. So it just helps out. Another question that I saw that I really liked, and it was actually under the life and learning, Ed, and it says, what worries you the most at work? Like, sometimes it's like, do we even ask that? Like, what worries you the most at work? Well, I got this boss and he's kind of hard on me, blah, blah, blah. Or I got this coworker. I don't like working with them so much because they think if you're on profile that you can't be an effective leader, stuff like that. So, but, I could go through all these questions, but there's
a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah, that's 3 pages worth. That's a lot. What are your thoughts on some of the questions, or is there any like certain one that you saw that you're like, oh yeah, that strikes a chord, or what are you thinking, man?
So I like the one in relationships and change. What are 5 rules you have or would like to have for relating with your colleagues? 5 simple rules. I mean, this is something you could throw on a whiteboard. This is something you could throw on a whiteboard next to the next to your desk, or, make some like flowery PowerPoint with it on there. What are your 5 rules? So I like that one. I like to identify those things.
Yeah. I mean, to me though, that's like, you're, as the mentor, you're actually creating an environment without even being in an environment. Sometimes you may not be a part of that group, but you're actually trying to create that circle of trust, as Simon Sinek would talk about, the circle of safety.
Trust. Yeah.
Yeah. The golden circle, as he calls it. Yeah. I mean, that's a really, we've answered this one, this other question. What legacy would you like to leave? We actually did a whole episode on legacies. So, I mean, there's so many questions. I don't want to keep throwing them out there too much. Unless you have any particular ones, Ed, I think we have hit the chord with this mentorship show.
I think these questions, one thing about these questions, Brian, is I looked through them. Some of these questions, we could literally like use them to generate episodes. You could use them to generate episodes of the Instinctive Influencers podcast off of these questions. Some of them are pretty good.
Well, now that you said that, Ed, I was going to go ahead. I was going to let you know you weren't at the production meeting again, so it was just me.
I don't do meetings well.
No. So actually, I wanted to kind of go further into our mentorship and coaching and training. So one of the things I thought about was using these questions in conjunction with a show about training, right? So asking the right questions to create the right training, all these things. I just thought, how would that connect? I'm playing with some things in my mind, Ed. We'll see what happens. But I guess what I wanted to get out of this show completely was just the understanding of the mentorship, and really like just looking at it from the mentor's perspective of knowing like you have a boundary, but you don't have a boundary, right? So you have a boundary that you want to stay within the realm that the mentee is trying to reach. However, you can use critical and creative thinking. You can use relatability. You can use, all the things that you've said. You can use all that to kind of encompass it. So I picture it as like this lane, just like a road. and then you're creating a bubble around that road of areas, so that if they don't stay on that road completely, they're still going in the same direction, but they're within the bubble, right? So, all right. So before we close out the show, Ed, any last thoughts on mentorship and where we need to go?
Well, no, I mean, I think it was pretty good. I think the mentorship thing, we need to understand, like, and then we owe it to our mentees to put our effort into it, to prep for those. We talk about them being prepared coming to the meetings, but what about the mentor? You need to be prepared to conduct those meetings, because, I mean, they're going to know. They're going to sniff it out, and they're probably going to go look for somebody else to help them, because maybe they see you're not invested in them enough. So
Right.
that was kind of one of the things that kind of, popped in my head throughout the course of the episode, Brian.
Really? So, Ed, throughout the episode, we talked about a lot of things, right? And it seems like it's a lot of stuff to take in, right? It's a lot. I mean, I'm trying to, I'm still divulging over all this huge packet, by the way, that Rick Williams has, because he's already sent it out to a bunch of people. If for some reason I wanted to just, like, hey, I think they talked about this, or they said that I could get a packet from a certain place. If they were trying to connect with us, Ed, to find this particular packet of information, tips, and tools, where would they go?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Brian. They can check us out on all platforms of social media at 101 Influence on Facebook and Instagram. They can also check out our YouTube page, The Instinctive Influencers. Go in there, subscribe, give us a big thumbs up, and leave a comment on things you'd like to see. Or maybe you have something to add to the qualities of a mentor that you look for. You can add it there. You can also go to our website, instinctiveinfluencers.com, and there you will meet the faces, see the places, and you'll get to know us a little bit better. And that's it, Brian. I think those things would be valuable. Of course, keep in mind that the Facebook page is a closed Facebook page, but if you answer the questions, I am sure that one of our friendly staff will immediately grant you access after you've answered the questions.
He says friendly staff. We have a lot of people on staff. You're looking at 2 of 2. No. Yeah, you're right. The YouTube page, just keep watching those. And if, like, the cool thing about the YouTube thing is you actually get a little bit more content, because, like, some of the stuff that I throw in there, or some of the things we say beforehand or afterhand, it kind of helps out. Thumbs up, subscribe. You can click the little bell, and it'll let you know it'll actually give you a reminder when a new show comes out. Now, you can listen to it and not even have the video on, so it makes it kind of easy. Ed, before we go, you had read a little quote from a book. I think that's the best way to end our show out. Look at that. What is the title of that book? It's called Tribe of Mentors.
Yes.
And end us out with your little quote, because I thought it was pretty good.
This is a quote by Marcel Proust. The only true voyage would be not to travel through 100 different lands with the same pair of eyes, but to see the same land through 100 different pair of eyes. And that was from Marcel Proust in The Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferriss. Excellent book.
Yeah, I would definitely tell people, hey, start looking at things like that. That'll help you become a better mentor. But hey, that's the music. We're done. That's the end of the show. So with
Where's
that,
that coming from?
I don't know. However, I am Brian.
And I am Ed.
This has been the Instinctive Influencer Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, try to be a better mentor, mentee, coach, and trainee. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.